Yeah, yeah. The Preakness is nigh. The Preakness is nigh. And we had a very successful Derby. Justify is a spectacular horse. One of the best horses we will ever see in our lifetime. What he did in that Derby was incredible. We will get to that more later in this breakdown, but it truly was one of the finest Derby performances. Don't take the only winning by 2.5 lengths over Good Magic. There's way more into that than you saw. It was one of the most spectacular Derby performances we've ever seen. And we will never get a chance to hit him at 3.5 to 1 ever again. I'm very thankful that a lot of us made a lot of money off of it. I wish I had made more. I ended up making $1,307 between my local and my HPI account, between the exactor, the Good Magic, the straight exactor, and to taking him to win at 3.5 to 1. This is a much more difficult situation. Justify is going to be a huge favorite. We are going to get a better line with our offshore books than we're going to get at the track. A much better line. Right now, you can get Justify at -220 at Bookmaker, -225 at Bet365. The opening line is 1 to 2, but there's talk that it will go down to 2 to 5. There's talk that it will go down to 1 to 5. I expect it to go to 1 to 5. There's even rumors that it could go down to 1 to 9 at the track. There's going to be a lot of money put on Justify, which does cause problems. How do we make money off of Justify if he is 1 to 5? And we'll figure that out here in this breakdown. There are a lot of horse thoroughbred handicappers that think this is maybe too difficult of a race to make money on, with Justify such a big favorite, and not trying to beat Justify, which is what I'm doing. I'm not going to try to beat Justify. He's a truly spectacular horse. So we have to really break it down and use exotics. Now, I am going to make a 1-unit bet, $200 on Justify with my local at -225. I'm going to lock that in now because I don't think I'll get a better price. I think that price will get worse as we get closer to the race. Now, there's a whole bunch of intangibles we got to break down. First off, it's been raining all week. It's a very wet forecast. A lot of people think that's going to help the horses that ran in the Derby. It's going to help them a bit. The Pimlico slop on a seal track is going to be very different than a Churchill slop. Also, there's Good Magic, Bravazzo, and of course Justify, who are expected to be the 3 favorites. Now, Quip may end up being the 3rd favorite, but if you just look at their performances in the Derby, it's really easy to say, oh yes, those 3 horses should be the top 3 horses. And a lot of people are saying that, but they're not taking into account how hard it is to run 2 weeks later. That is a very difficult race, to Kentucky Derby. All the smashing, all the mud. It's so difficult. Now a horse has to run 2 weeks later. And then if he wants to win the Triple Crown 3 weeks after that, that's why no horse in 37 years was a Triple Crown winner until Pharaoh came along in 2014. It is that difficult. So it's not just as simple as saying, oh, Good Magic is so much better than these other horses. We just saw that 2 weeks ago. He's going to do it again here. It is very difficult. There's a whole bunch of different things that are going to go into this. So let's talk about the race. Pimlico. It's going to be raining. It's going to be sloppy. It's been raining all week. It's 1 mile and 3/16. So it's a little bit shorter, or maybe quite a bit shorter than the Derby, and then the Belmont 1.5 miles, much longer than this race. So let's begin breaking it down. We're going to do 4 different things here. First off, we're going to break it down simply, which we've just done, talking about the Preakness Stakes. Then we're going to break down each horse individually, 1 through 8. Then we're going to do a quick time form pace projection using the time form US pace projections that they give us. And then I'm going to put in my bets. And we're going to talk briefly about the head-to-head matchups. And the best head-to-head matchups are definitely at Bookmaker. And if you use SBR, our website, and use some of your points that you've created, if you're SBR Pro, even if you're not, you probably have some points, then you can get bonuses on Bookmaker. And Bookmaker is by far the best for these head-to-head matchups. There's a lot of opportunity to make cash, and we're going to break that down. So let's get to it. We're just going to go down in order in post positions. First horse, Quip. 12 to 1, career high buyer 92. Again, just like in the Derby video, we're going to be using the buyer speed figure. I know it may be sort of an antiquated system for some of you veterans of the thoroughbred capping game, but it's still the one we're going to use. We're going to use buyers. So first off, Quip, 12 to 1, career high buyer of 92. Now, I love that Rudolph Brissett chose to skip the Kentucky Derby for this race. He was the only qualifier who chose to skip the Derby. And, of course, Gronk ended up getting in when Quip left, and then Gronk couldn't run because of an injury. But Quip and his connections chose to skip the Derby. This is a developing horse and a much better situation for him. You have 20 horses in the Kentucky Derby. Here in the Preakness, the Middle Jewel, you have just 8 horses in this race and a much better situation. Now, the rain will not help Quip. I wish this was a dry track. If this was a dry track, I'd be even higher on this horse. The rain is not going to help. This will be the 3rd race of this year's training cycle. We talked a lot about that in the Kentucky Derby. The prime spot for a horse to fire is the 3rd race in a year's training cycle. So let's go over his first 2 races of this year. First off, he won the Grade 2 Tampa Bay Derby at 19-1. And then he came second to Magnum Moon, who was 6-1 in the Kentucky Derby by 4 lengths in the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby. The Arkansas Derby was a race that we gave a little bit more respect to than sort of the Bluegrass Stakes and some of the other prep races, as it was a big field. Now, he was up close to slow paces. He's not going to have that opportunity. In both those races, they were very slow paces, and he was right up to the top, right up to the pace, and he's not going to have that opportunity. This is supposed to be a faster pace. And the Kentucky Derby's pace was very, very fast, and we'll get into that a little more when we talk about the Great Justify. This pace expected to be faster. Now, Quip has the exact same connections as Justify. Baffert trained. This is a really nice spot for Quip, and it's unclear exactly. When we break down the price projections, there's a lot of differencing of opinions on where Quip will be, but I'm high on Quip. I love that he didn't race 2 weeks ago in a very draining race with 20 competitors in a sloppy Churchill Downs track. I'm high on Quip. Let's go to the 2-horse Lone Sailor, 15-1, career high buyer of 95. Interesting horse. He came out very slowly in the Derby, then progressed up to 8th place. He went right to the rail, though. So he started out in 20th place. He had a bad start, but he went right to the rail. And this is a horse that likes to come from the back, come from the clouds. He went right to the rail, which means he actually traveled 41 feet less than Justify, which means if you adjust his extra feet traveled 2 lengths, he actually lost to Justify by over 14 lengths. Now, he probably caught mud in the face, which is difficult, and he'll probably catch that again. I'm not very high on Lone Sailor. I think maybe saving him for the Belmont might have been a better spot for these connections. But Lone Sailor, 15-1, career high buyer at 95. Now, Quip at 12-1, Lone Sailor at 15-1. I do predict that we'll get higher odds once we get to the race day. 3-horse Sporting Chance, 30-1, career high buyer of 91. Sporting Chance has some talent, but he's been very difficult to train, just giving his trainers headaches. They gave up on the training session this week because he wouldn't run. He seems to be his own worst enemy. He has speed, but he gets confused on the track. He was disqualified from 3rd in the Bluegrass for ducking out sharply. It was an interesting situation. Saya, he was moving towards the rail, and it was kind of dangerous. So Saya switched leads, and then he ducked out way out to the other side, and he was disqualified and put in the 4th place. Sporting Chance has speed. I don't think he's going to be comfortable in the slop. I don't think he's going to be comfortable with all the fans that are going to be there. And remember, the Preakness in the infield is the Freakness. 21 Savage is going to be there. A bunch of rappers. It's just the infield of the Preakness is a huge party. It's going to be muddy. It's going to be mayhem. There's going to be tons of noise. This will hurt a horse like Sporting Chance. 4-horse Diamond King, 30-1, career high buyer 84. Diamond King could have run in some of the dirty preps. His connections decided to pursue smaller races in the Mid-Atlantic region. There's a reason for that. They didn't think he was going to be able to win those races. Now, he's won 4 of 6 races, but there's a reason why his connections didn't want him to race against the big boys. His speed figures are just not fast enough for him to get a piece of this race. There's a belief that he will break to the lead. Some people see him breaking to the lead. If he does, there will be no way he'll be able to hold it. If you're fading him in matchup props like I am, I'm fading Diamond King in a couple matchup props, hope he goes to the lead because then he'll end up in last place. Now we come to the 5-horse, Good Magic, 3-1, career high buyer of 100. The 2-year-old champion, Bluegrass Stakes champion, and Kentucky Derby runner-up is already at Pimlico. Chad Brown says he's doing great. I watched a clip of him at Pimlico. He looks good. Brown feels like the 1.5-mile distance of the Belmont Stakes is not the perfect distance for this horse. So why not just take another shot at Justify? I'm actually a little surprised that this horse, whose dad is curling, that Brown doesn't think 12 furlongs is a nice distance for him, but Brown is obviously, a Hall of Famer and knows better than me. Now, the key thing, there's a lot of people high on Good Magic. And there's a couple things I really want to point out. One, his lifetime best speed figure, the best he's ever run, is not as good as Justify's lifetime worst speed figure. If you watch that race, and we'll get more into it when we talk about Justify, the pace was extremely fast. There have only been 5 derbies with a faster first quarter, and that was in the slop. Now, Good Magic was 2 or 4 lengths off of that pace, and it didn't tire him out too much. I am going to not use Good Magic in any of my action here. It's too simple. I just think it's too simple to see a race 2 weeks ago and say, well, Good Magic is a 2-year-old champion. He's much better than these other horses. What did that race take out of him? And I imagine that it took a lot out of him. Now, Jose Ortiz, his incredible jockey, had some very interesting comments. He said, it's a small field, and if we have a clean trip, I'm sure we could turn the tables on Justify. Now, I don't think that's the case. He said, we just have to make up 2.5 lengths. Now, that isn't quite, and we'll get into this with Justify, but that 2.5 lengths is not a fair representation of how that race was run. He says it's not like he beat us by 10 or 20 lengths. He also says that a wet track is not a disadvantage for me or my horse. We ran in the Derby, and we were beaten 2.5 lengths on a sloppy track. Both horses like it. Justify just had a better day that day. Hopefully, someone else goes to the early lead. That could be Diamond King. If Justify goes, and I have to be the one putting pressure on him, I will be. I will have to turn it into a match race. It looks like a match race on paper. You can't give Justify an inch. Now, if Diamond King doesn't go to the front, and Justify goes to the front, and Good Magic challenges Justify, I do not think that Good Magic will be in the top 4. He's just not as good as Justify, and if he tries to press Justify and tries to push that pace, I think he will get hurt doing that. 6 horse, tenfold, 20-1, career high buyer in 92. This is a lightly raced 3-year-old colt, just 3 races under his belt. I'm very high on tenfold. I think he has a huge potential. Now, the slop is not going to help him. The rain is not going to help him. He was 5th in the Arkansas Derby. It was the 3rd race of his career. 5th place. But he was just half a length behind Quip, who placed 2nd. Those 4 horses behind Magnum Moon were all very, very close together. His trainer, Steve Asmussen, is very high on him. This horse has the same connections as Gunrunner, who last year was the fastest horse in the world. This is a horse who has enormous potential. The Arkansas Derby was a big jump, and he ran great. Now, the Preakness is another big jump. But a lot of people are high on tenfold, and I am one of them. Now we come to the great Justify, career high buyer of 107. Justify is 4 for 4 lifetime with buyers between 101 to 107. He's won in the mud, he's won in the slop, and he's won on a dry track. He's won at 4 different distances. Bob Baffert is 4-0 when taking a Kentucky Derby winner to the Preakness. He's won 6 Preaknesses total. He's going for his 7th, and he's 4-0 when taking Kentucky Derby winner to the Preakness. Now, there was a rumor, and it's more than a rumor. There was pictures of it that he had an issue with his hoof, that he had a heel bruise. But Baffert says he's doing great. He watched him run. He flew to Churchill and watched him run this week. There is no way that Baffert would run him if there was even the slightest thing wrong with him. Losing this race, even with an injury excuse, would lower this horse's value tremendously. Now let's talk about the Derby. Not a lot of people are talking about just how incredible Justify was in this Derby. Justify is a better horse in his Derby time and length of victory show. He had to deal with a 22-4 opening quarter, which is extremely fast. It's historically fast. There have only been 5 races in the history of the Derby with faster opening quarters. And in each of them, this is crucially important to how special Justify is. Each of those 5 races, the horses on the pace, the horses on the speed, completely fell apart. The winner in each of those races came from 9th place or further back. They ran that 22-4 in a slow, sloppy track. Justify turned away those horses on the pace that all fell apart, that were all between 15th and 20th, and won the race. He was pulling away from Good Magic at the end of the race. This is one of the most incredible horses I've ever seen in my lifetime. I've not seen a horse that you can compare him to since American Pharoah, and he may be better than American Pharoah. Drawing the 7 post is excellent for Justify. The outside slot will allow him to avoid any significant mud early. and Pimlico is going to be sloppy. There's going to be mud everywhere. And it could also help Justify relax. As he showed before, he can lay off the pace from the outside. The seven post is excellent for him. Now we come to the final horse of the 8, Bravazzo, 20-1, career high buyer of 93. He had a very interesting Derby, and a lot of people are high on Bravazzo. Bravazzo was bumped at the start and then ran 4 and 5 wide around the entire racecourse. His 6th place finish is actually a lot better than it looks. His dad, awesome again, had a son named Oxbow, who also came 6th in the Derby, came back 2 weeks later to win the Preakness. That was in 2013, the year before Pharaoh completed the Triple Crown. Bravazzo is the hip choice as a long shot right now. He ran so wide in the Derby, so wide. So even when Jose Contreras had a chance to bring him closer to the rail later in the race, he kept him wide to keep him away from the mud kicking off the front runners. Because he ran so wide, he actually ran 44 feet more than Justify and 49 feet more than Good Magic. He also ran an incredible 85 more feet than Lone Sailor, who placed 8. So according to Trackers, 1 length in racing translates to about 8.5 feet. So that allows us to calculate how many lengths Bravazzo lost relative to his Preakness opponents. He was 5.2 lengths lost versus Justify, 5.7 lengths lost versus Good Magic, and 10 lengths lost versus Lone Sailor. So that theory, of how much extra feet he ran and an improving horse. Now, D. Wayne Lucas, his trainer, another Hall of Fame trainer, said he was feeling so good that he actually worked Bravazzo out on May 13th. That's only 8 days after the Derby. None of Justified, Good Magic, or Lone Sailor has worked out since the Derby. This is an impressive horse. Now, in my action, just like Cloud Computing last year, I believe that Bravazzo and Good Magic have had a lot more taken out of them than people are giving on. I am taking both of these horses and not including them into my action. Now, I have pretty simple action. I'm not including either Bravazzo or Good Magic, and almost everybody is going to be including them. Okay, now let's go quickly to the Time Force US pace projection. So there's a thought that Diamond King will set the pace early. The Timeform pace projector places Justify on the lead. Now, the Time Force US pace projection uses a computer algorithm, and it's not using how fast that Derby pace is, or was, as an outlier. Justify contested that very fast pace, but he did not actually set the pace early on. He does not need the lead. I don't expect him to take the lead unless they just give it to him, which happens sometimes when horses are afraid, when horses are only racing for second place. But we've already heard that Jose Ortiz is not going to do that. We've already heard that Jose, if all the other horses give Justify the lead, that Jose Ortiz is going to press Justify. So I think that Diamond King or Sporting Chance are going to go early from the inside of Justify. Now, he can track them closely, but a length or two behind. Sporting Chance is shown as racing mid-pack, but D. Wayne Lucas said that Sporting Chance will keep the pace honest. So by him saying that, it means they're going to send Sporting Chance. The pace projector places Good Magic 3rd. Nobody is sure exactly where Good Magic is going to be. So the pace projector places him 3rd. I've heard some people say he's going to be 4th or 5th. And we heard Ortiz say that if they give the lead to Justify, that he's going to send Good Magic. So it's not clear where Good Magic is going to be. The key people to this pace are Diamond King and Sporting Chance. I do think Diamond King and Sporting Chance are going to go to the lead. I think Justify will be right there with them, maybe a length behind. And I think Good Magic is actually going to find a spot a couple lengths back. But we'll see. Now, Quip drew the rail. Some people think Quip is going to show speed. I think that Quip will show speed, but he's not used to a fast pace. Because those 2 races he ran, the Tampa Bay Derby and the Arkansas Derby, because they had such a slow pace, the Timeform US pace projector places him all the way back in 7th. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, Bravazzo, who drew the outside poised 8, is actually projected to start towards the back with Quip. Now, this horse is capable of showing speed. Could find himself more mid-pack. His stablemate is Sporting Chance. And there's a belief that Sporting Chance will do the dirty work to try and tire out Justify. I think this is what's going to happen. I think that Sporting Chances and Diamond King are going to try and push a real fast pace in hopes of tiring out Justify. Now, that's the way it looks like it's going to break down. That's the way I expect it to break down. I expect it to go like this. I expect that Sporting Chance and Diamond King will go right to the lead. Justify will be right behind that. But I also think that Quip will be right there too. So I think those 4 horses will go to the lead. Bravazzo and Good Magic will line up behind, and then Lone Sailor will be behind them. That is how I expect the race to break down. So my bet, and I'm going to send it in as soon as this video is over because I think I'm going to get a better line now than when this video comes out tomorrow morning, which will be Friday morning. My bet is I'm going to put $200 up with my local on Justify at minus 225. Then, on my HBI bet account, I'm going to make a $50 straight exactor, straight. Justify to win, Quip to come second. And the $50 straight exactor, Justify to win, and the 6-horse 10-fold to come second. So that's a $50 straight exactor, 7-1, and a $50 straight exactor, 7-6. And that's it. This is a difficult race to make a lot of money on, and I'm not going to risk way more than I can make. $200 on Justify minus 225. I believe that all of the books that we use here at SBR Odds will be giving better odds than you'll get at the track. I do think it'll go down to 1-5. I do think somebody's going to come and put $500,000 or $1 million on Justify. So those are my bets. Now, let's quickly go to Bookmaker and go over these matchup props because I like them. I'm going to be making these as official plays, and I'm considering opening up with Bookmaker because these 8 head-to-head matchups that they offer are very good and very exciting. First off, I'm taking Quip to beat Lone Sailor. Quip to beat Lone Sailor. I'm getting Quip at minus 114 to beat Lone Sailor, who's at minus 116. Then I'm taking tenfold to beat Sporting Chance. Tenfold I'm getting at minus 127. Sporting Chance is at minus 103. I think the crowd's going to affect Sporting Chance, and I think the slop's going to affect Sporting Chance. Now, we don't know. Tenfold's such a young colt. We don't know what's going to affect them. I'm taking tenfold at minus 127. And I'm also taking tenfold to defeat Diamond King. Now, this is a bit of a bigger favorite situation. Tenfold's at minus 146. Taking tenfold to beat Diamond King at minus 146. Diamond King's at plus 116. Those are the 3 plays that I am making as official plays on the Low Bag Show. And they're available at Bookmaker. And man, these head-to-head props that Bookmaker offers, you know, I've only been down here with SBR for about 7 months. I didn't know how glorious they are, and I'm going to start hammering them more often. Bookmaker does a very good job at that. And go through us when you open up an account at Bookmaker, because that's what keeps the lights on here. That's what keeps me down here is people going through us to open up those books. So that's the action, man. That's what I'm on. $200 on Justify minus 225. $50 straight exactor, Justify, Quip, and Justify tenfold. This is exciting. And we're about to see Justify go for the Triple Crown. Now, as I've hinted at, I'm going to fade Justify in the Belmont Stakes. Because that's what you do. You do that every year and you win in the long run. It's very hard. Now, Justify is so special that I think he can win the Triple Crown. But I will still fade him next round. But this is what's up, man. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting Sportsbook Review. And let's get that cash. Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.